Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Valley. So we're back to this point. This game is in the group of games, which there's a decent number of them that just cannot minimize itself, like mute its audio and actually minimize to the desktop. You can pull up a desktop in Windows 10 with it, but then as soon as you try to use any other window, it tries to once again be the image on top. So I had to exit out to record my Monday, Wednesday, and Friday Magic the Gathering live streams. It's definitely a point towards, I imagine iOS. I haven't used iOS, but it's definitely a point to Android that when you hit the desktop button, you get the desktop no matter what, and there is no way for a program to, in Android operating system, just be on top of the screen and lock itself on top of the screen. Or if there is a way to do it, there probably is a way to do it, but it's so outside of the normal way you would make a program that I have not ever run into it being an issue. I've decided to, I didn't reset the defaults on the music volume, but I've decided to just turn it up back to where it was. I still kind of feel like maybe there's only music in the menu. I looked through 10 pages of discussions on Steam, and while I saw more than I probably should have seen as far as posts and complaints about poor optimization, it was all video optimization, which I've had no problem with the video. Of course, I have a way overpowered video card too, but they were complaining, I believe, with even a 1060, which I have a 2080, so you're talking one generation and 2 stages up there, 2 tiers higher, but that's not a big deal really for this game. So we're going back to Titan Rock, and I imagine in this point we will just be at the elevator that we started at instead of the 20 paces we were when we exited out. I did see someone complain that when you get a quest update, it doesn't automatically always save, which, I mean, okay, fair enough. I see how that would be particularly irritating. Interesting. There was something that kind of occurred to me about this game, in the fact that, ooh, it does save pickups though, so you do get the secondary save for pickups, which that's fairly typical in general. You usually do, in a well-programmed modern game, have automatic checks for this. So interesting, like, there's a distance at which this turns red and you can no longer swing, which, okay, that's good to know. But if you were to take this game and expand on it, the thing I think you would want to do at some point is have it in a more urban environment. Cities, people, things like that. You would want to see dead corpses that you could put life into, or enemies that you could suck life out of. In fact, that entire concept, while a little bit morbid, is in no way something that I would be disinterested in. That actually would be kind of a really cool idea to implement. They also started me oddly with a little bit less than max health, which has a potential to, with the double jumps, to make me run out of energy. I'll be darned if music is not playing. So either you have to have the music really, really loud, which seems like that's the case, or I have just managed to completely... Yeah, I would almost jump to my death if I'd missed that. I've managed to just completely crash the music engine. That probably is a very large testament to just how few people bother to ever change the volume settings in games. It's something that you need to have in games, absolutely. You really can't make an argument for not having volume as a feature for accessibility reasons alone, but it's also something that would be an underused feature. Now, am I supposed to go that way or am I supposed to go that way? It seems like we've hit a point where the game is now screwing with us a little bit, giving us an actual challenge, and I don't think I can complain about it doing that, because we definitely were in a dangerous position where this whole game was going to get super easy. And I don't think I would have fully enjoyed that. Now that's interesting. When I grew the tree, the energy next to the tree either got absorbed by the tree or just got destroyed by the tree. And I didn't get any acorns, which honestly I'd be foolish to even bother to try to get any acorns. Once I walked away, it respawned the energy, but I don't think it will constantly do that, so I don't think I can just find a place like that and decide to try and fill up completely. These little columns didn't really do anything, but I think we are at a point where we can no longer play the game the way you'd like to play it, which is to give life to the forest always and never take life. It seems like if there was some kind of special ending to the game where you never took life, that would be cool, but it would seemingly be really difficult also. Like, more difficult than it probably would be worth as far as efforts. And we're still getting the prompts. Yeah, I definitely can say the game feels more polished by having music in the background. What does this say? Pendulum? I don't think that's the name of the company that worked on this game. I thought the name of the company that worked on this game was like Black Isle Studios. Now, by giving life to that tree, what did I do? Because they clearly have glowing things. And maybe the glowing thing was nothing more than to just show these collectibles, which would be fairly easy to actually miss something directly in one of these containers, because it's not like the container is particularly dark with the items in it always being particularly bright, or vice versa. So it does seem like it'd be rather believable and possible. And there's another one of those. Those feel like doors. Triggers to some door somewhere. But I don't know where the door is. And I guess the flags now are supposed to be indicators of where to go on top of... Yeah. I definitely just opened something. And we'll have to suck some life out of these vines just for safety's sake. And I didn't take a running leap there, and it probably would have been smarter to do that. Yeah, we definitely are in that position where you're limited. So think about, there was the door, so we activated it without even seeing it. It probably would have been fairly easy to hit this target and this tree from where we stood up here. Yeah, there's not a great indicator when you're going to leave an area. So if you were going to try to return life to this section of the valley, and I assume it's this section of the valley, not all of the valley. I could be wrong about that. And the music faded out once we walk through a checkpoint, which feels very intentional and not just random. Probably want us to hear the wind, to think about embracing the wind in a very long jump, and that we're not just going to run. It seems fairly obvious that they at one point want us to run, though. We have another flag. Alright, well, let's run. And this is crazy because what we have to decide is when are we gonna, why we're taking a leap and where we're going. I guess we're taking a massive leap to a platform over there, which I guess is a different platform from where we started. Although, honestly, it kind of feels like we've just gone in circles. There's a lot of energy pellets that give me the feeling that the game has gone in circles. As I'm trying to collect energy, can I find trees to give enough life back to the forest to fill it back up to the maximum? I guess I can. And it doesn't quite feel like a one-to-one situation, because I feel like I sucked life out of 2 or 3 vines and only had to give it back to a couple of trees. So trees seem to sometimes trump vines. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a fairly easy system. And yeah, at any point around here there could be a tree that would drop acorns. We are definitely in this catch-22 where they want you to be able to run and jump when they want you to run and jump. But if you just run and jump head first, you don't know where you're going to land. That would be a pretty dumb way to play a game. Just not looking before you're leaping. And They also want to have a video game limitation and restriction here. I don't think getting energy pellets, by the way, I don't think that actually increases your speed or anything. There's an acorn that just rolled off the edge. I guess we are higher now than where we were. And it does seem like we will be going back to through this area at least. And we probably will revisit the two previous areas. Although I still kind of question how much actual gameplay will be in those areas. Because it does kind of feel like we might just run through an area real quickly to maybe find some collectible. Maybe they'll give us a radar that tells us where to find all of the crystals and gems. This is the Soma Utility Shack. And yeah, we are back to the music not playing more than it should. Not play. I don't know how to say that correctly. It's a little too quiet now. They don't have that balance. And I've noticed that in a decent number of games where the music should generally fade in for the entire play length of a song, and then the game should give you about 2 minutes of silence. But if you go more than a couple of minutes, maybe you could go 3 or 4, but not this long, because if I can recognize and say out loud, boy, it's silent now, why is it so quiet, then that's the point where the music should have already faded back in. I'm hoping that there's no hole in any of this. And by the looks of it, seems like we're going to have to work our way all the way around to the top. It's not a bad idea for a game level design. But yeah. If you were to bring this into an urban environment, you have to kind of establish, I would say, some ideas like the life seed sucks all the life out of people, or this is an alternate reality where cities have long since become abandoned because everybody died in like some nuclear war or something, and then there's just a few like human characters or animal characters running around. They don't even have to be human or animal, they could be kind of monster characters even, that you would still be able to suck life out of and put life back in. You open yourself up to an interesting opportunity to have storytelling and introducing more characters if there were more people in general in a game like this. However, I heavily suspect we won't run into Virginia King or any of the other characters in this game. I think this is going to be a fairly empty experience. See, this is a area where we're supposed to, I guess, jump down and break through at some point. I'm not sure this is that point, though. It's still odd that you just can't walk through doors. There is kind of a dangerous question still, though, if this game is offering enough to justify the idea of having a sequel, because I kind of feel like it isn't. Note from a worker: working the pipes on this place is a real pain. It's as though they went out of their way to build their facility in the worst place imaginable. Just to make it tough on the lowly pipe fitters like me. Repairing a pressure system leak takes me the half of the day just to get to it. They ain't paying me enough, if you ask me. It is weird that all of these notes are in English. And it would have been fairly easy for them to translate. Just say translated from Russian. So if this is all English and all the people are English and yet they seem like they are all the USSR, then this might be some alternate universe where all USSR people are English speakers, or the USSR won like the Cold War and took complete control of the United States, and now United States citizens are part of the USSR. That would be an interesting twist to explain it. And that is probably a pretty free twist you could do, considering this game is probably not going to tell any story around any of that at all. Well, it doesn't seem like there is anything else to do. So down we go. And I guess they think that that's more fun than it really is. There is a sequence in Portal 2 that maybe they were heavily inspired by, in which you fell a really long time. But that was like a one-off gag, and it wasn't particularly entertaining just because you were falling through things or falling down. Reminder to all personnel, please keep a safe distance away from Amrita. I forgot how they pronounced it. Amorite? I think they pronounced it Amorite, but if you look at it, how it's spelled, it's Amrita. Amrita. Let's stick with Amrita until we hear somebody say it again. They often become terribly aggressive when in need of Amrita. If a swarm is blocking access for you, please request it for a Pathfinder to pacify the swarm. I just kind of still have this feeling that these Amrita storms are like the collection of souls or something. You'd think that there would be some way to open this. You'd think that this would be at better scale, but it really never seems like it is. What does this one say? Memo: stay on the lookout for any intruders on the premises. A number of guards have reported seeing shadowy figures watching our operations from afar. It could be a sign of possible espionage. Report trespasser sightings at once. They do seem like they are really soft on trespassers still. I mean, I really feel like there should be at least the threat of being shot on sight in a facility like this, even if they wouldn't actually act on it. Even if this is a fairly peaceful game, I don't think it has to be that non-violent. And I guess we're just in a really, really rusted pipe still. Although I wouldn't blame anybody for just assuming that this is just straight up a hole dug out of the wall. And those effects. The audio effects changed as soon as we got out of here. The lights still have power. Interesting. And see, it would be an interesting story if in some of these transitional places where you walk through a tube or something, you walk through like some kind of time portal that you don't even recognize you're doing, and that opens up a realm of possibility for you. See, I don't know where to land here, and I see a decent amount of water. So I feel like had I tried to run there, I would have just run right off the edge. We've got music again. And then it's a little too obvious of music for a video game, but it's not terrible. Note from a Pathfinder: dying to wear the leaf suit is dying while wearing the leaf suit is an incredible experience. No one outside myself can possibly observe it. The best way I can describe it is as a daydream one sometimes gets lost in. I died by falling into a lake, and next second I'm standing by the shore, no one else being the wiser about just what happened to me. Is it even real? Wow, so are people gonna get addicted to the thrill of dying? We have another leaf suit upgrade. Surprise, surprise. So we now have the Viper coil. Swing yourself up to new places with the Viper coil upgrade. Allow Pathfinders to latch on Deadeye crane blocks. Use at a cost of 1 energy. Everything is at a cost of 1 energy. So right trigger and hold when targeting a Deadeye. Okay, so we can see in that case we're gonna have to risk it here, and we're gonna have to say maybe in game we can turn the music down and maybe the music will still play without, because the main audio was too quiet then. Okay, so that got me somewhat far enough, but barely, just barely, so I'm gonna have to be very careful there. I probably should have had some more momentum, and you don't have like a triple jump, so that is something to also keep in mind. And that is just a lot of acorns, considering we have like 45 of them. And we've only found one door at all that needed acorns at all. So it doesn't really seem like that's a big deal. Okay. So you have to be fairly close here. And then let go, and then you can continue your swing without having to use a double jump. Because remember, if you use a double jump, that's an energy, and if you use a swing, that's an energy. So if you start to get really fancy with things, you might very well end up over wasting your energy to the point where you'll start to run out. And we've already hit a couple points where the game is kind of like that. And there's plenty of trees that are dropping plenty of acorns. They've majorly increased the drop rate on this. I don't think that tree's dead. So did we even miss one? This kind of looks like this rock might be movable at some point to some other shortcutted area. And they're definitely giving you energy in case you run out. 5 acorns were all you needed. So we are still like way further away. I kind of thought these kinds of gates might take us to a different world, like a pocket dimension. Crane block overhead. Okay, good to know. Note from a Pathfinder: we have a large portion of the valley mapped out so far. As far as I know, we've explored most of the acorn doors. I heard there are squads with almost enough medallions to access the big steep pyramid. So if squads collected almost all of the medallions, maybe they put them all in these containers, and you do have to use that to your advantage and find all of them inside those containers. I don't think we've seen any medallions anywhere else where it probably would make some sense for us to actually see some medallions outside somewhere else, but I don't know where you'd put them unless you want to carve them into stone or carve them into trees. Crane block ahead. That's on both sides of that. Alright. Wow, that's a lot of extra momentum. I think this is going to be kind of a consistent issue with this game, is if you start to really look at this game as a playtester and just start to be really critical and say, every time I overjump or overshoot a jump, every time it flings me high in the air, we're going to consider that a failure until this game feels like it has extremely tight controls and you're actually moving in the direction and in the way that you would think is appropriate and intentional and controlled. And yeah, I think if you're going to hit that level of criticality on it, there are probably a lot of places here that are not well programmed. Note from Virginia King: samsara, the repeating cycle of birth, life, and death, affected by the karma fostered during one's life. Is that what Pathfinders experience? Constantly dying and reviving. According to Buddhism, there is no beginning to the cycle, but it can, however, be broken through enlightenment. Let's see. It's kind of convenient to say there's no beginning to a cycle of reincarnation if you believe in reincarnation. I guess maybe it was a case that some players wouldn't have been able to open this area, but I don't know. It seems like this would have been fairly easy. And maybe there's nothing else in here. Interesting. That throws us a different loop. Because everything up until this point behind an acorn door has been more of a jump puzzle section. So to have a secondary acorn door that is just an upgrade of how many energy pellets you can have is a different experience. I'm getting hit quite a bit. But yeah, you're in a weird position there, because if you're not careful, you would potentially run around in circles and fall off a ledge trying to dodge shots, and then you would die for sure. So your only real option is to just kind of sit there and take it. I wasn't 100% sure I was gonna make that. And we're back up to 45 acorns. Which I don't think the intention here is to make me find more acorns, because I'm about to run into yet another acorn door. Although maybe I am. Maybe we're gonna start running into a lot more acorn doors. it definitely feels like there should be more things to find in this game in general. There's a lot of high places and not a lot of interest in rewarding someone for getting to those high places. Whereas if you compare that to Super Mario Odyssey, like they just did an amazing job to say, well, during playtesting we saw some players reached this high area that normally would have nothing there and they were disappointed, so they decided to put a whole bunch of coins in a lot of the high places in Super Mario Odyssey. Not that coins really even matter or anything. I don't think you even get a star for collecting 100 coins in Odyssey. They're just there as something you can collect, something that you, I think, need to use to buy a few outfits and costumes, and they're just kind of little rewards. They also refill your health. I'm getting an upgrade so often now that you can almost, even without trying to play the game particularly carefully or speedrunning the game, you can almost just very flippantly use the energy because you'll get an upgrade that refills your energy anyways. Note from an engineer: ever since the Pathfinder program decided to use the dead-eyed crane blocks as part of their training, my engineers have been constantly putting themselves in harm's way to set them up. One poor fellow tragically fell to his death while stringing up a dead eye across the chasm. We don't even get to wear that damn leaf suit, otherwise he may have lived. What a waste. Yep. That's an interesting, like, side commentary on the idea. If there was a suit that effectively made you immortal at the cost of other life around you, whether it's human life or plant life or animal life, there inevitably would be haves and have-nots. And that would inevitably lead to social unrest. Again, no reward for finding a new area. Okay. So I guess down we go. I guess we're not going any higher as far as this section. And that brings us to this other elevator, because the first elevator broke a while ago. And that reminds us that we have to charge these elevators. And it definitely felt like it was going downward.
Only authorized personnel are permitted on the premise. In accordance with the War Measures Act, extreme security screening and clearance is in effect. All personnel entering cargo bay require appropriate badge identification.
Let's just see if we can get these energy pellets while we're coming up. That you can see there's a problem here, that there's like no reason for me to look here. If this were like Dead Space 2, zombies would be, or necromorphs would be jumping down here and attacking me, and I'd be afraid of that. At the very least, Amarita swarms should be trying to attack me from this height and as I was going up, even if they didn't actually do much damage to you. We're getting quest updates now that are just really simplistic. It's just keep doing what you're doing, keep working your way higher and higher, just because, hey, it's a video game and that's what you would do. We also have some draw distance issues here. Like, it doesn't really make sense. Like, look, there's no real reason why I shouldn't be able to see things. I have the draw distance as high as I imagine it can be. You can see a tree over there. So they just didn't want to draw it. I think I could easily, with my graphics card, look out throughout this entire land and see see the entirety of the area. Although, in all fairness, I bet if you jump down, you'll die after just a medium-sized fall, which also really wouldn't be in line with this game because it's pretty much been training us that you can fall as far as you want and nothing will happen to you. See, Pathfinder training area, post headquarters, post exchange, the Telltale building, the EM service club, the NCO office, that would be the commanding officers club, and the officers trainee barracks, I guess. And I imagine may have pre-programmed it so you landed right in front of the sign, or they wanted you to at least to do that. Did Pathfinders train here?
As lonely as it's been with the isolation policy in effect, I've often found myself in the company of a Pathfinder named Edwin Hall. The things he can do in a leaf suit are astounding. Some nights we'll head to the rooftop above my office and watch the auroras. I have no idea what he could possibly see in me, though. I tend to ramble a lot. I mean, who wouldn't find Mesoamerican calendrical systems anything other than fascinating? Guys love that stuff, right?
So we found the spy. Obviously, he's pumping her for information and pretending to like her. You're in kind of a weird position with like this training area. I guess it makes storyline a logical sense for this to be here, but it kind of falls apart as an area because it's not too exciting, since we've been already doing effectively the same kind of jumps. This is the kind of area that you would kind of prefer to run into earlier in a game like this. I would also say that tease of Virginia King being infatuated with the obvious spy, who I will just refer to as the obvious spy. And if it turns out he isn't a spy, then that tells you the writers aren't on the same page as I would be as far as writing stuff like that. Or maybe they wrote it as a red herring. Interesting. There's kind of like a bee sound. I'd say the music is still probably a little too loud. Yeah, something's attacking me, but where is it? It's way over there. I don't think I can hit it. So I've aggroed an Amrita storm I wasn't supposed to aggro, I imagine. Now this section does play, I guess, fairly well in the sense that it is here to make you remember how to do double jumps in case you've forgotten. And I wanted to go back to the audio. Let's go a couple more steps on the music. Because I would like the music to be fairly quiet. I would like it to probably get quieter by default when an audio log is playing. You would think that's something that they could just do by default. And I don't know if these were supposed to be at some point like flame torches that you could mark or that would just light up as checkpoints. I don't know if maybe they are checkpoints and there's just no visual feedback or cue there. Instead of them being metal, they could have been like the Mesoamerican style sculptures of some sort. And they could have started glowing when you approached them as an indicator that you set off a checkpoint. That would be a little reassuring. Because we kind of don't know when this game was saved or checkpointed. Could have been at the very beginning of the level. It could have been 5 minutes ago. It could have been 10 minutes ago. It could have been very far away from here. It could have been 5 feet away from here. There we go. Still take 1 hit and lose 2 energy bars. Yeah, I guess the training ground wasn't a terrible thought, because it did return us to the idea of double jumps, in case somebody forgot. I wonder if these symbols are going to mean something at some point in the future. Let's see. Concentration requires silence. Authorized personnel only. And they're kind of making it obvious that it's a spy station. You'd think they would not do that. Like, generally you would just call it a military base if it was a spy station, or you would label it as whatever cover story you have. You're not going to make it obvious that it's a spy station by putting signage. Note from a Pathfinder. Everyone here thinks I'm a liar. No one believes I got attacked by a grizzly bear during one of my runs. Luckily I managed to extract its life before it could swipe at my face. I got far before turning back to return its life energy. Hope I never see the likes of him again. That does bring up an interesting idea. What happens if you take physical damage but don't die? Does the life suit automatically account for that? How much physical damage? Do you rewind time if you stub your toe? Or do you rewind time if you break a leg? Since it seems like it only takes you back a few seconds, if you broke your leg and starved to death in the forest, then you probably at that point wouldn't be in any good situation. You would just go in loops, dying, reviving just to starve to death again, over and over again, until you'd sucked potentially all the life out of the valley. We're seeing people labeled here as missing in action, and these, I believe, were time scores for potentially different areas. So yeah, maybe you go missing in action and get erased from reality if you die enough. Still awkwardly seem to sink down into the ground or move without being told to move. Note from a researcher: Pathfinder squad point tally from daily exercises: Land Sharks 48, Raptors 43, Valkyries 37, Buck Riders 37, Wild Roses 29. So these, I guess, are the team's name and logo, and they're just kind of broken into teams. Interesting. And how those numbers work together with these times, I don't know. And I don't know if these energy balls would have been around when the other Pathfinders were here. They probably were. Here you have times Squad, skirmish time, and jumps. Interesting. And I just accidentally hit A and ended up on top of this. That was a little more convenient than it should have been. It hardly feels like there's a great mystery. The bigger mystery would be, why is there a trash can here? I guess maybe this was like had a tarp around the edges and it was more of an enclosed area at some point. That's about all I could guess. Alright. And I think we're perfectly safe. So let's see if we can do this the way they want us to. And yeah, they just put this on the background. Let's see. This is maybe a hint of something back here. So they put the sign here so you can just run further. And no double jump needed. But then you do run into the issue about, well, was there something on that platform of importance? Probably not. That probably was just a catch so you wouldn't fall to your death immediately if you misjudged a jump. But it definitely feels like we are kind of just going in circles around this tower. Which, how much more of this tower, this elevator shaft is there? Not a lot more, or maybe a lot more. I would probably argue that there's a smarter way to have the energy refill in like well springs that would just constantly have a reason to respawn. Little fountains or glowing water coming out of cracks in the walls or something, instead of having a very magical video game element of just glowing orbs that you absorb and then you walk 20 feet away and then they're respawned. We got a note from Pathfinder. These medallions are getting cleaned up fast. Getting into that pyramid first is going to be tough. Hopefully I find more quick. I want to be the first to explore it. Okay. We're just getting a lot of energy upgrades. Yeah. I'm still getting that nervous feeling though that in this whole process I am just going to manage. I don't know if I can make that. Is that what they really want me to do? There's seems to be no correcting for a mistake here. Well, I almost just slid off and that was not my fault. I'm not going to take the blame for that one. I'm gonna double jump and try to aim for this tree. Boy, does it feel like more of the same. You could have easily replaced half of these energy orbs with either the Amorite swarms, or just humans trying to shoot at you. Even Native Americans trying to hit you with bow and arrows would be more interesting than what we're getting. Am I safe to walk on all of this, or am I going to fall through a crack? And see, we're kind of going back now and doing a more lateral jump, which we haven't done that in a while. And then we have these boxes, which don't have anything in them. And then we've got a tree that was dead. That didn't give us any acorns. Not that we absolutely need more. Got another medallion. I think it should be fairly obvious at this point though why they needed to tell us. They either needed to tell us that we needed to collect like 20 medallions or 50 medallions or 100 medallions. Or they needed to show us a gate with the number of medallions needed to open up the pyramid, because we haven't seen the pyramid at all. Guess this is falling rock, which would be funny if a rock fell on you and that was just scripted. We have had one scripted death before. And we're about into the Soma facility. It feels like if I had more time, I might check to see if I have the game Soma installed. And if I do, just once we enter the Soma facility, we pause playing this game and then go play Soma and try to merge the two games as if they are made by the same people and like as if the game is supposed to actually be played that way. That would be some grade A silliness, though, and ridiculous in every possible way. Yeah, I don't even think Nintendo could get away with something like that. Like, I could imagine... Okay, we got a musical note. I could imagine Konami or somebody trying to do something crazy like that and saying, yeah, you have to now stop playing this game and go play something different. Or Final Fantasy games from Square Enix have certainly done things like that, where Final Fantasy 13 is sort of its own story, but then they made 13-2 and then 13 Lightning Returns, so there's like 3 Final Fantasy 13, and then 15 Final Fantasy 15's even worse because they basically cut all the storyline and all of the interesting story from the game completely, and to get the story of I guess that's not dead, it looks fairly brown, so to get all the story of Final Fantasy 15 you have to watch their Final Fantasy 15 anime movie. So yeah, Camp Hinde this way. This is Soma facility. Shortcut. Find a way inside the abandoned facility. How long has this been abandoned? Where did everyone go? I mean, well, all of this is rusted like crazy, so you're looking at least 100 years of rust, which kind of also throws everything out of the idea. If this was USSR equipment, 100 years is way too long. But a car, even a USSR made car, wouldn't be this rusted out in 20 or 30 years unless you're in a magical area where things just rust way a lot quicker, which maybe this is a magical area where time moves differently. What was the point of all these boxes? Nothing. They're just kind of Unity asset flips. Let's fill in an area instead of having a empty grass section, which I can't blame them, frankly, for doing something like that, because it is the right way to design a level, is to have stuff in it, even if the stuff is unimportant. At a certain point, players will get wise to that and grow bored with it, but it is better than an empty field, which is what you often get in the purest form of asset flip games. It's just giant empty fields with nothing in them. These are different. And see, those are still glowing, so that does give me the impression. I'm a little afraid I'm gonna fall right through this rock, but I shouldn't. So I kind of have the thought that some part of this facility may be somewhat still manned, but the vast majority of it probably isn't. It does seem like there's a decent amount of opportunity for collectibles to be in different places. See, every time they put one of these canisters around here, you're then kind of obliged to run around and look on both sides of the canister to see if a door is open in it. No smoking sign. Again, all the signs are in English. Yeah, really where I'm at with the story, as far as if any of this is supposed to make any sense, this is some kind of alternate reality where the USSR won the Cold War and took over the United States, made United States English-speaking people, or maybe they didn't even take over the US. Maybe they took over Britain. That would be more believable, or the UK's something like that. Some English-speaking people of some sort, and then they, I guess from that point you could maybe make the assumption that we might be further in the future than it seems, like 100 years after the Cold War. And they use ammonite packs to restore a small part of energy to your suit. So you can't pick those up unless your energy is low. That's going to be slightly helpful. That does eliminate kind of the redundancy that we keep running into, where I'm running around collecting orbs just to always top off my collection. Feels like there's a lot of vents that would have been openable so you could crawl through them in a Metroidvania style, but none of those vents actually look like they have any air ducts behind them, which is a little weird. Yeah, for a second there it feels kind of Batman-esque. And yeah, it feels like this should be something that you could open. And of course it still feels like doors should be openable. Yeah, I wouldn't even mind if you had a kind of just joke animation where you grabbed a handle and it broke off, and the character just said, "Not trying that again." This is one of the few areas where it feels like there's a high chance that we have just overlooked something. Note from a worker: those colossi statues all over this valley are a bit unnerving. Why would the ancient people who lived here build that kind of stuff? As scary as they are, I still find there is a beauty to them. Something about those monstrous faces sitting amongst the calm forest captures an odd sense of allure. And then we hear the little sprite characters, which, yeah, I kind of wish the sprite characters would have somewhat been hostile, even like a little bit mischievous. If they would run up to you and steal an energy from you, that would be fine. And just even if you didn't have a way to like fight them, other than sucking the life out of them, that'd be fine. Because then they could just be, oh, I'm gonna take a sidestep and avoid them, type monsters. Not every monster has to, or enemy has to be deadly to potentially be challenging. Like as they are now, at best they're gonna be annoying by making sounds. And their little squeaking doesn't seem like it does anything for as like a hint that you need to go in a certain area. I think I got everything around here, but I definitely could have missed a lot. And let's jump up here and pass by as we walk forward. That worked out fairly well. Imagine what we're gonna do is we're just gonna find a hole to jump down, and then that will take us to the next area, and then that'll be the end of this recording. Yeah, we are another hour through with the game, and this is definitely one of those games where it's kind of impossible to rage quit a game like this, or even be upset with a game like this, because it's just giving you some very basic, very simplistic gameplay. It's not beating you over the head with terrible, frustrating, challenging gameplay, and it's not ruining your day by any means. It's just kind of a calm, relaxed walking simulator game, like a game with actual gameplay in a small measure. Yeah. It definitely is not fair to really call this game a walking simulator, because you're jumping. Walking simulators wouldn't have you jump. You're picking up collectibles. Walking simulators wouldn't do that. You're reading story. Most walking simulators don't even have you read story. They usually just tell it to you directly. Okay. So over here is another medallion. I think it's fairly unbelievable I'll be able to find all the medallions, if I have to find all the medallions, without some kind of radar. And if I had to find like a online walkthrough to tell me this is where all the medallions are, go here, go here, go here, I don't think I'd bother to do that. But there's also kind of no guarantee that you actually need all the medallions. You may literally only need 20 of them, and almost certainly I will have 20 medallions by the time we actually find this pyramid, which, since we've got a giant skybox, it feels like it should just have a giant pyramid somewhere. Like, somewhere here in the distance we should see something that at least gives us the beginnings of an indication of a pyramid, like a golden top like the Egyptian pyramids have, or anything at all, some glowing light. And we are just continuing with our efforts to jump late and jump fairly often. Seems like I could jump over there as like a shortcut. It seems like if I missed a jump, I would just fall down that way. This would be a interesting spot to potentially get knocked out of the air by some kind of rocket launcher or automated turret. We're not going to see anything like that in this game.
While I appreciate being brought in to study the valley, I wish the military's presence here wasn't so domineering. I can't say these giant structures add much to the view. It would be nice if this was simply a place of study and conservation. I'm doing my best to steer the army away from the ruins, but the only thing that seems to concern them is their project. Gathering up as many of these strange orbs as they possibly can.
Yeah, so they are collecting the strange orbs. So it must be in the case of everybody except for you that the orbs don't respawn. Danger, high voltage. Good to know. Do I really have to run this direction? Not really. And is there something down there that we missed? Is there something down there that we missed? The collectible crates do have a shininess to them, which I appreciate. But they would be better if they were kind of flashing red lights at all times, or bright red barrel equivalents. Yeah. And it'd be fairly cliched to Amarita storage. It would be fairly cliched to say, well, this game could use some explosive red barrels, but here's a barrel. If it exploded, it might prove the game to be a little bit more action-packed. Sometimes there's a reason why cliches are cliches, even if it is kind of just a non-artistic, silly reason. Alright, well. Amarita storage. Is this like a trap? Or is this how we get in? I guess it's how we get in. We've seen Amarina energy before. I don't think I can shoot through this fence. So I'll have to... That feels like they wanted me to see it, but they didn't want me to be able to fight it. Alright, well, here we go. That one seemed like it took maybe 4 hits instead of 3 to pacify. And we're kind of dead on the music again, so I don't know if we've crashed the music and the music just crashes when it's below like 50%, possibly because of like a mathematical error. Like if the slider was programmed wrong and it went from, instead of 0 on the volume to 100, it went from 100 to say negative 100, then that might explain a crash. Because what would a video card do with a negative number as a volume, or an audio card do with a negative number? It would almost certainly crash it or cause a bug, cause an issue that maybe it won't actually complain about too much, but will cause that kind of experience. Warning, crane block overhead. So they want me to drop down through here. And it definitely feels like... So this is the elevator. So everybody else, except for me, would have been able to potentially take the elevator all the way up to this point and just walk off to this place, or at least maybe take the elevator enough to walk into the facility that's below this part. And there's like a energy pellet way up there, which that would be an interesting place to reach. So how am I supposed to get up there? Or am I not supposed to get up there? Doesn't matter. Think I'm close enough. Wow, I just caught the ledge on that. I think there probably is a way to get up there, and there might even be something up there, but let's just see what this does. Takes us to a new loading section. And see, if the travel section takes us directly into this area, that'll be a little weird, but not super weird. And of course these loads are just because the game, when it was originally created, was more thinking along lines of the computers it would run on, or the consoles it runs on, would only have so much RAM, instead of using a more modern system of loading and unloading level data in the background, so you don't have to see load screens as much. And that technology has still not been perfected. I do hear music. It's fairly quiet right now, so we didn't fully break the music, or at least we fixed it once we loaded back into this into a new area. Looking in the lower right section on this pause screen, it does seem to me like we probably will get some kind of left arm upgrade and left leg upgrade, very possibly a secondary upgrade to both legs, which probably would be combined, a chest upgrade, maybe an energy absorption upgrade. I could see getting just a magnet, effectively, so you can walk somewhat near the blue orbs and gain and absorb the energy instead of having to walk directly on them. I could see a head upgrade being some kind of visor to scan through areas, and possibly even find that there's a whole different dimension with a whole secondary set of enemies, all as something like Metroid Prime, and seeing things with the infrared visor or the dark visor. I don't know if there actually was a dark visor. But when you look at the top left, we are at 7 out of, at best, I would guess 12 energy pellets. So we're probably past the halfway point there. I don't think you ever increase the energy of the valley in any way, and I don't think you really need to, because it seems like you probably have about 10 deaths you could have before the game would actually game over. We have 52 acorns and 17 medallions, and our objective has just been the same since the beginning. Just look for the life seed, look for the life seed, and maybe there's a middle quest to get into the Soma facility, then look for the life seed, but really it's just been looking for the life seed. So I wouldn't be surprised if the game ends as soon as you find the life seed, or you get some kind of cutscene, and that's about it. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. We're already 20 minutes over. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.